Last weekend, I took the family up to Nashville and we went to a big, huge plant sale that was up there. And it was kind of an interesting experience because what had happened is we'd had tornadoes a couple weeks ago, and then they had to delay one of the plant sales by a week because of the weather. So both plant sales for the Perennial Plant Society of Middle Tennessee and the Nashville Herb Society all met at the same time. So it was like one big massive garden show almost. Unfortunately, we don't have the Nashville Lawn and Garden Show, so this kind of has to suffice for that. But it was a pretty cool plant sale. There was a lot of stuff there. But I'll tell you this, if you ever decide to go, you need to make sure that you show up as soon as they open or earlier. They had people lining out the door. We got there about an hour into it, and on the Perennial Plant Society side, it was very picked over. But I was still able to get some really cool stuff. So I'm going to talk about some of those things that we got, how we're going to use them in the garden, where we're going to put them today, and this is what I've got right here. So let's go ahead and take a look. So even after arriving an hour later after they opened, there was a lot of plants still there to go through. Some of the ones I was going for, the specific ones, the camellias and stuff, were pretty picked over. But I did end up coming home with one that I'm really pleased with. I'll tell you about that here in a second. But I think the way it works is they get these plants from nurseries, and a percentage of the sales goes as part of their fundraiser, and of course the nurseries end up probably getting a percentage of the profit too. So it's probably a win-win for both of those organizations. Both sides had a lot of really cool plants and stuff, and I feel like by the time we got there, the Herb Society actually had a better selection for us at that moment. But that's not to say that either one had a poor selection. It was all really good, especially if you got there right on time, which unfortunately we didn't. But let's go through and let me show you some of what we purchased that day. I had my whole family with me, and my youngest daughter, who's 7 years old, actually stuck by one plant. We could not get her to move from this plant until we put it in the tray and carted it with us. So, and it's this one right here. Okay, that is Celine. It's called Valley High. And I've never grown one of these before, but it's got this variegated foliage all in there. That's pretty cool. It will rebloom in the fall if you've trimmed it up a little bit and pruned it back. But it's just a full sun perennial that should be fairly low growing and fairly low maintenance. It does need good drainage. So she just stuck by this, and since I knew my kids were not necessarily the most thrilled with going to this thing, I was like, we're going to buy you a plant or two. So it's a good excuse to get more plants for the garden anyway. So there was that one. That's the Celine. Another plant that kind of came in the same genre there of for the kids. This was another one of my daughters. Really fell in love with this Rosa White Pet Rose. It's a smaller shrub rose. Gets about 4 foot by 4 foot. Probably good for the front of a border garden area. But it's got these clusters of white flowers. It was in full bloom when we purchased it. You can see the flowers are fading now, but we've got a lot of buds and stuff yet to go. So we'll get that planted somewhere, and then will just start putting out all kinds of flowers for us. So another one that my youngest daughter fell for, again, was this little one here, which was Bellflower or Campanella. So it's just a small, little, low-growing perennial plant. Now, getting into some of the stuff that I actually picked out, actually one more here. This clematis here, it's called Ryman, and it's about a 4 to 6 foot tall perennial vine plant, clematis. If you've ever grown one of those, they are gorgeous. We may put this one in a pot initially until we've got an actual great location to put this in. So some of the herbs that we picked up are right here toward the middle. So let's go through some of them because they're pretty cool. This is lemon verbena, and it has just a wonderful fragrance, taste to the leaves. It is not hardy here in Tennessee, so you either want to plant it in a pot or dig it up in the fall, bring it indoors. I will probably do the same thing I do with a lot of my plants. I'll take some cuttings of it toward the end of the year, bring those cuttings indoors, and we'll grow them on for next year. Lemon verbena. And this one here is a pineapple sage, and it's called Golden Delicious. It's got a little bit more of a golden shade to the leaves, but still has the same characteristic reddish blooms that hummingbirds and other pollinators really love. So we went with that. Here, this is another one great for hummingbirds. It's Agastache. It's a hybrid. This one's called It's a dwarf hummingbird mint, kudos, yellow. So it'll have some nice yellow flowers coming up from it. I've got a couple others of those this year that I'm going to be putting in the garden. And I love this one. This one, it's Salvia leucantha, and it is a gorgeous salvia. I saw a variety of this, or some that was planted down at Vizcaya in Miami, or I think it's in Miami, outside of Florida, in the Florida area, a couple years ago, and it was just amazing when it was planted with a red backdrop behind it. It was just stunning. But anyway, I've got some of that, and again, it's not hardy here, so it would be one that I would take cuttings of and keep over winter indoors. And this one here is a mint. This is Kentucky Kernel, which is well known for various mixed drinks and iced teas. You add that to your tea and it tastes wonderful. Like any mint, you probably do not want to plant this in the ground directly or in the garden because it could very well take over. You can see right here, it's already got a runner shooting out of the side that's got little teeny tiny roots forming on it. So that runner will put down its root onto the soil and the roots will start coming out and it will just keep spreading by those runners. So the best solution is probably just to find a nice pot to keep this in. They do well here in Tennessee. They're very, very hardy and they smell great. And speaking of tea, this is one of the favorite plants that I picked up. This is a Camellia sinensis, which is the actual camellia that's used for making tea. You can make green tea out of it, you can make black tea out of it as well. So you've got a lot of options. This particular one's called Sandy's Small Leaf, and it's from the Camellia Forest Nursery. I believe they're in North Carolina. So they had quite a selection of these, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this does. It actually has little flower buds on it, so we'll get to see some blooms from it very soon. I'll try to keep this in a spot that's got a part sun, part shade, and keep it a little bit sheltered in the wintertime. We'll probably keep it close to the house where it can get some residual heat from the brick wall, just because they can be a little bit questionable sometimes when you have a really harsh winter. I had some winter snowman camellia at our last house that was beautiful, but we had a really hard freeze one time and it just didn't make it through real well. It did come back and we trimmed it up so it would hopefully regrow and do well, but they can be damaged by some of that cold weather in the wintertime. And this one here is the last one I've got to show you. And this one is a Baptisia called Solar Flares Prairie Blues. This one was grown, and there's another one here. I'm trying to see which one it was. Yeah, the Celine. These two were both grown at Clifford's Nursery down in Lewisburg, Tennessee, which is not far from where we are. It's about a 30-minute drive. But this is a beautiful plant. It is a false indigo, and it's going to have yellow flowers that are going to come up on these stalks that will gradually change a little bit more to a pinkish orange color down at the base as they fade. I actually purchased another one of these at Baptisia, the more traditional bluish colored one, to put in the garden. These are deer tolerant, so around here that's very, very important. So there's one more plant I don't have out here. My daughter potted it up and put it in her room like as soon as we got home that day. And it's just a little succulent plant. She was not even wanting to go to this plant sale, and yet she got excited about the clematis and the rose bush, and then has a succulent. So I was a little lenient on purchasing stuff because I wanted her to be excited about gardening and about the plants and going that day. I wanted her to come away with it with a great experience of having something that she can do in the garden and dig it in the dirt. So I'll be having them come out and help me plant these plants that they got so that they can have ownership over doing that. And I think it's really important to take your kids out, get them to these locations, the plant sales, botanical gardens, the different gardening events that you have locally, and just get them really excited about digging in the dirt. It can be a great thing, and it's a lifelong, long-lasting event that will give them that passion for gardening as adults, and we need to have that for the future. So I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.